Discover Miraculous Deliverance, how God transformed his people in the incredible book of Judges. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, during times of despair and oppression, the people of Israel found themselves ensnared in the grasp of foreign powers, specifically the Midianites. Their fields, once fruitful, lay barren, stripped by the marauders who descended like locusts. In the shadow of this turmoil, Gideon, a humble farmer from the tribe of Manasseh, worked tirelessly, yet furtively. With no grain safe from plunder, he crouched within a winepress, threshing wheat in secret, desperate to salvage something for his family amidst such darkness. As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, Gideon remained oblivious to the holy presence nearing him. The angel of the Lord appeared, radiant and fearless, casting a light upon Gideon that pierced his doubt and fear. "The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor," the angel proclaimed, words that stirred something deep within him, something he had long forgotten. But self-doubt clouded Gideon's heart, and he questioned, "If the Lord is with us, why has all this happened? Where are his wonders?" The angel remained steadfast, undeterred by Gideon's hesitation. "You are chosen to deliver Israel from the hand of Midian," he declared, igniting a flicker of hope mingled with disbelief in Gideon's soul. Apprehensive and trembling, he sought reassurance. Gideon prepared a sacrifice, offering a young goat and unleavened bread, and as fire consumed his gift, he realized he stood before a messenger of God, whose very presence demanded reverence. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now, let's continue with what the Lord did next. In the stillness of night, God's voice pierced the silence, instructing Gideon to tear down the altar of Baal and the Asherah pole. Such a bold act in a divided land required immense faith. Trembling beneath the weight of this divine command, Gideon obeyed, but under cover of darkness to shield himself from the wrath of his people. When dawn broke, the townsfolk discovered the ruins of their beloved idols, and a storm of rage erupted, directing their fury toward Gideon's father, Joash. Yet, no longer afraid, Joash defended his son, proclaiming, "If Baal is truly a god, let him contend for himself." Then, with God's Spirit empowering him, Gideon called forth 32,000 men to rally at the spring of Harod. But the Lord spoke again, declaring the numbers were too great. Gideon stood astonished as one by one his army dwindled, revealing God's desire for his strength to manifest through weakness. At last, only 300 men remained, clutching torches within clay jars, poised against the Midianite camp. In that dark hour, apprehension gripped Gideon's heart, thick like the night itself. Would this humble obedience lead to deliverance, or would it end in defeat? Yet, amidst this uncertainty, God's sovereign plan loomed before him, leaving an air of mystery shrouding their march toward impending confrontation. As the air crackled with faith, Gideon encountered the clash of divine purpose and human frailty, propelling him into a narrative of salvation through the power of the Almighty. As the darkness of night enveloped the camp of the Midianites, Gideon's heart pounded in time with the stirring of the weak yet fervent hope within him. He encouraged his 300 men, whispering fervent reassurances. "The Lord has called us to this battle. We shall overcome." Their faces were lit by the flickering light of the torches, and they stirred, emboldened by the whisper of divine promise. In the stillness before the storm, Gideon sought the Lord. "If you will save Israel by my hand, let me know your will," he cried, pleading for confirmation. The weight of their mission pressed heavily upon him. In faith, he laid out a fleece upon the ground, praying, If there is dew on the fleece alone, and all the ground is dry, then I shall know you are speaking through me." In the morning light, God responded, "The fleece was drenched while the earth remained parched." Yet Gideon, trembling still, sought again. "Do not be angry with me, O God, let me test again," he implored. And this time the fleece was dry while the ground was wet. Empowered by these signs, Gideon gathered his men. They approached the Midianite camp in silence, the night air heavy with anticipation. At the Lord's direction, Gideon divided his men into 3 companies and instructed them, "When I blow the trumpet, you blow yours. Shout, 'For the Lord and for Gideon.'" The appointed moment arrived. With a loud trumpet blast, Gideon sounded the call, and the men shouted as instructed, the sound echoing against the hills. The sudden clatter of breaking jars startled the Midianites, and in the chaos, confusion seized them. They turned upon themselves in a frenzy, swords flashing in the depths of the night. As Gideon's heart soared in reverence, he watched the Lord's might unfurl before his eyes. There, amid the fray, the Almighty fought for Israel, stirring the enemies into disarray. The light of the torches flickered and danced, resembling the glory of the Lord, a divine assurance that He was with them. As the dawn broke over the horizon, Gideon and his men chased the fleeing Midianites, their cries of alarm still echoing in their ears.
The battle was not won solely by swords, but by the faith of a few. God's strength accompanied their small numbers, revealing His sovereignty against overwhelming odds. The news of their victory spread like wildfire throughout Israel. Those who had been afraid, those who had hidden in the shadows of despair, began to rally. Gideon became a beacon of hope, a deliverer amid the ruins of despair. But the triumph of Gideon was not merely a tale of earthly victory. It echoed a more profound truth. The Lord's hand had delivered His people from the brink of destruction. Yet, amid the rejoicing, a question lingered in the air. What further purposes did God hold for His chosen servant? As the echoes of festivity mingled with the whispers of uncertainty, Gideon wondered, what remains for us beyond this victory? The stage was set, and the heart of Gideon was poised for revelation. While tears of joy filled the eyes of the people, the winds carried an unspoken promise, a mystery still veiled in God's greater design, waiting to unfold. Would Gideon grasp the depths of God's unfolding plan, or would shadows of doubt return? The answer rested not in his understanding, but in the sovereign will of the Almighty, whose ways were higher than the heavens. As the shouts of victory resounded from the hills of Ephraim, Gideon felt a surge of hope ripple through the people. The birth of renewed faith among them was palpable, as women sang and men embraced in the joy of liberation. Yet amidst their jubilant cries, a still small voice whispered in Gideon's heart, urging him to seek the Lord further. He withdrew to a quiet place, seeking the divine presence that had guided him thus far. "Lord," Gideon prayed, "you have brought us triumph over our foe, yet my spirit is troubled. What is it that you would have me do? What remains in your plan?" As the sun rose higher, casting golden rays over the hills, he sensed the Lord's answer brewing like a storm upon the horizon. Meanwhile, as the remnants of the Midianite camp scattered, the princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeb, were captured by the men of Ephraim. In the days that followed, blood flowed like a river as the Israelites pursued their adversaries, driven by zeal. With every fallen enemy, the faith of Israel grew, and Gideon sent messages to the tribes of Manasseh, Asher, and Zebulun to gather for a sweeping victory celebration. Yet not all was well in Gideon's heart. His thoughts were heavy with the shadow of the past, the sorrow of the years under oppression. "Where are the signs of your enduring promises, O Lord?" he murmured. "Why haven't you led us to permanent peace?" As he pondered deeply, a messenger arrived bearing news. Succoth and Penuel had refused to provide bread and water to Gideon and his weary men. "They mocked your authority," the messenger reported. The fire of indignation ignited within Gideon as he cried out, "These cities shall not resist the Lord's will. They will see the strength of their God."
Marched on, determined to confront the leaders of Succoth and Penuel. Upon arrival, he spoke boldly to them. "You have forsaken Israel's need in its hour of desperation. Once I return in triumph over Midian, you shall reap the consequences of your doubt." His words resonated with the gravity of conviction as he reminded them, "The Lord fights for us. Do you not see?" And with that, he turned on his heel, leading his men onward to the remaining foes, with the hope of retribution kindling courage in their hearts. As they located the final Midianite stronghold, Gideon cried unto the heavens, "By your hand, O Lord, allow us to witness your might once more." Amid the battle, when swords clashed and chaos reigned, Gideon's heart thrummed with resolute faith, for he saw in the eyes of each man beside him not merely soldiers, but children of a covenant promise. The day wore on, and with every victory, Gideon felt the weight of responsibility press upon his shoulders. A leader, not just in battle, but in guiding the hearts of his people towards faithfulness. After the battle was won, he would gather them and teach them the paths of their God, for their faith must take root. By twilight, Gideon stood victorious upon the battlefield strewn with the remnants of Midian's strength. But amid his triumph, a whisper stirred once more. "What shall I say to them, Lord? How do I instruct them when their hearts are prone to wander?" Even in their victory, Gideon knew that the struggle against doubt and disbelief was far from over. The Lord's purpose was unfurling slowly, a tapestry woven with strands of mercy and justice. And so, in the quiet of that evening, Gideon awaited the next move of the Almighty, for the night held secrets yet to be revealed. "What further trials shall we face, O God?" he pondered. "What awaits your people in this unfolding drama?" The air thickened with anticipation, and as stars began to prick the dark expanse above, Gideon held fast to the truth. God's sovereignty was a compass guiding through shadows, and somewhere beyond the horizon lay his unyielding plan for Israel's redemption. As the night deepened, a heavy silence enveloped the camp. Gideon, weary yet vigilant, gathered his men around the flickering flames. "Brothers," he began, his voice firm yet tender, "we have witnessed the hand of our God deliver us from the oppressive yoke of Midian. His faithfulness has shone brighter than the stars that illuminate our path." Yet, in the depths of his soul, Gideon sensed the Lord's persistent call. He could not escape the stirring in his heart, for the Lord was not finished. A gentle but compelling nudging urged him to rise and seek the face of the Almighty once more. "What now, O Lord? What shall be the next battle?" he whispered as he knelt in earnest prayer, yearning for guidance. In the quiet of the night, a vision swept over him. A multitude of stars illuminating the heavens, a divine promise woven into the fabric of the cosmos itself. "You will be a judge among my people," the Lord whispered, "and you shall not only lead them in battle, but also guide their hearts back to me." The dawn broke, spilling light over the rugged landscape, as Gideon felt renewed strength surge within him. "Gather the people," he commanded, his voice resonating with authority. "We shall call to mind the covenant of our forefathers and the mighty acts of the Lord." The tribes, seeing the courageous resolve in their leaders' eyes, began to assemble. Men and women traveled from their homes, filled with hope, their hearts now aflame for the one true God. As they gathered, Gideon spoke, Let the hearts of men be restored. For too long we have wandered in spiritual desolation. Yet today we will reaffirm our commitment to the covenant of our Lord. He is mighty to save." With his words echoing through the assembly, a spirit of confession swept across them. They laid bare the idols they had clung to in the darkness, the false gods they had allowed to infiltrate their lives during the years of oppression. "Forgive us, O Lord," they cried, tears flowing as they recalled the faithfulness of their ancestors, a faith that had long dwindled. Amid that gathering, a hush fell as the elders of Israel, with trembling hands, brought forth a stone, a memorial to testify of the Lord's deliverance. "This stone shall be called Ebenezer," they proclaimed, "for thus far has the Lord helped us." In the midst of this, a messenger arrived, breathless and urgent. "Gideon, the remaining forces of Midian are regrouping. They seek revenge for their fallen comrades." A stirring swept through Gideon's heart. "Then we must prepare," he declared, "for our God fights for us. We shall stand on the truth of his promises." With urgency, he rallied the men, sharpening swords and calling to arms. As morning dawned anew, Gideon led his warriors into battle with resolute faith. But within Gideon, a question lingered, a divine echo in the chambers of his heart. What shall be the fate of Israel after this victory? Will their hearts remain steadfast, or shall they stray once again? As they faced the enemy forces in the valley, Gideon prayed fervently for a sign, a confirmation of the Lord's enduring presence among them. "Show us your favor, O Lord, and grant us the strength to push back the darkness once more." With swords raised high, the Israelites charged forward, hearts united in the hope of fulfilling God's will, unaware of the greater purpose unfolding in the spirit realm. The clash of swords rang out, the earth trembling beneath their feet, and Gideon's heart beat in unison with the cries of his people. But even in the heart of battle, the deeper truth loomed. What lay ahead would not only determine their physical victory, but the trajectory of their covenant with God. As the day wore on, shadows began to lengthen across the land, whispering of things yet unseen. "Lord, will we honor you in our triumph?" Gideon pondered, the weight of sovereign purpose heavy upon him. And in the echoes of the clash, a new revelation began to surface. God was not merely leading his people to battle, he was shaping their destiny, preparing them for a future shrouded in his divine sovereignty. As the clouds gather in the heavens, Gideon recognized, so too does the plan of the Almighty await its revelation. What is your design, O Lord? What must we learn in our victories and failures alike? The battle ensued, but a greater battle for the hearts of Israel was beginning, one that would unfold in the days to come, revealing the depth of God's enduring love and unchanging purpose. For in the horizon of their struggle lay the call of redemption echoing through ages yet to unfold. The sun hung high above the valley, casting a fierce light over the battlefield. As Gideon's voice reverberated through the throng of warriors, the air grew thick with a palpable intensity. "Remember, brothers, our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the powers of darkness," he urged, his sword gleaming in the sunlight, reflecting the promises of the Almighty. With renewed fervor, the men surged forward, swords clashing against iron shields, echoing the ancient songs of David that proclaimed victory in the Lord. The ground quaked beneath their feet, and the cries of the Midianites resounded in fear. Gideon stood at the forefront, rallying his troops, but deep within him a battle raged fiercer than any swordplay. It was the battle for a faith unyielding in the face of uncertainty. As the skirmish escalated, he lifted his gaze toward the heavens, seeking the face of God. "O Lord of hosts," he cried out amidst the clash, "let our courage reflect your glory. Allow us to witness your power, and let this day be marked not just by our might, but by your deliverance." In the midst of chaos, a sign emerged. A sudden tempest swirled, the winds rising in harmony with the cries of the people. The Midianite warriors began to turn on one another, their confusion mirroring the turmoil of their hearts. Gideon watched in awe, sensing that the great God of Israel was at work, dividing their enemies and scattering them across the plain. "Charge, for they fall before us," Gideon shouted, and with a mighty roar the Israelites surged forth, emboldened by the realization that God had gone before them. Yet as the day wore on and victory seemed assured, a shadow flickered at the edge of his consciousness. He turned inward, pondering the words spoken to him. Will the hearts of these men remain steadfast, or will the fleeting joys of conquest lead them to wander astray once more? His heart wrestled with the weight of this truth, knowing that battles could be won, yet faith could falter. The tide of victory continued to roll in. The remnants of the Midian warriors fled, their hearts gripped by terror. Yet among those who remained, a familiar voice rose amidst the din. "Let us capture the leaders," a soldier declared. And Gideon felt the fervor. Yeah, he understood their need for validation. "Wait," he called out, and a hush fell over them. "Remember, our call is not for blood or glory, but to return to the Lord. We are to let the world know of His mighty acts," he reminded them, recalling the Redeemer's intentions for His chosen people. As the battle reached its climax, the remnants of their foes began to scatter, the ground soaked with despair. Gideon knew that the Lord's hand had wrought this victory, yet his thoughts drifted back to the night before, the vision that unfolded in the celestial heavens, and God's promise to guide their hearts back to Him. In those moments of stillness amid the storm, Gideon called out to the men, "Rejoice, for our God has delivered us. Yet let us not forget, we fight not just for ourselves, but for generations to come." The men, caught in that sacred moment, dropped their weapons and fell to their knees in worship. They offered up praises, recognizing the grace extended upon them. Tears mingled with dirt as the hearts of the Israelites began to align with the covenant once more. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, God revealed yet another facet of His plan. Gideon sensed the stirring of the Spirit, a deep whisper unveiling truths yet unseen. "Your victory, my people, is only the beginning. I am calling forth a new covenant, one that will require your whole heart, an everlasting promise that will reach to the ends of the earth." In the fading light, a sense of anticipation filled the air, revealing that the battle was not merely for today. A greater history lay ahead, one steeped in God's sovereign grace and the unfolding of His divine purpose. For hidden beneath the echoes of battle and the shouts of victory lay the resurrection of a nation, a melodious redemption beckoning forth. Would they respond? Would this stone, this Ebenezer, truly mark the new path forward towards a covenant renewed? A brewing storm of faith was building, a promise still veiled but yearning for revelation. What more could the Lord unfold in this grand tapestry of redemption? And it came to pass, as the sun had fully set and the day surrendered to twilight, that Gideon and the people of Israel gathered together, their hearts still ablaze with the fervor of victory. They marveled at the great works of the Lord, for the Midianites had fallen as the leaves in autumn, scattered by the mighty hand of God. But even in their joy, a chord of solemnness struck within Gideon's spirit, for he knew the victories of today would be tested by the trials of tomorrow. "Brothers," Gideon spoke, raising his voice over the murmurs of celebration, "let us not be swayed by the sweetness of our triumph. Instead, let our hearts be humble and bound to the Lord's decree.
For it is not by our swords that we have prevailed, but by the grace that flows from the throne of heaven." As the tribes of Israel knelt in reverence, they recognized the necessity of recommitting themselves to the God who had delivered them. Yet a whisper of doubt stirred amidst them. Unbeknownst to Gideon, certain factions began to murmur against the divine decree. "What is this new covenant that Gideon speaks of? Neither the kings of the earth nor the gods of the nations bear such promises." And Gideon, perceiving the uncertainty in their hearts, sought the Lord once more, pouring out his spirit in prayer. "O Lord of hosts," he cried, "I beseech you for wisdom and clarity, for the hearts of my brothers are wavering." In the stillness that followed, a sudden fire ignited in Gideon's heart, and he felt the innate pull of prophetic hope echoing through the ages. Then, as the night deepened, a vision unfolded before him. A great tree rooted by waters of life, branches stretching toward the nations, ripe with the fruits of righteousness. And from its boughs came forth voices singing praise of him who is, who was, and who is to come. "Out of your emptiness," the vision whispered, "I will pour forth new wine, a promise not only for you, but for all generations, that they may know my name." Gideon opened his eyes, and with renewed fervor he called the people forth. "Beloved of God, the Lord has revealed his plans. He speaks of a promise, something greater than what we can comprehend. He will establish a new covenant, not just for us, but for all who come after." Yet, as he spoke, the clouds rolled in, darkening the sky, and the wind began to howl. "Beware," a voice cried from the rear. "This new covenant may lead to strife. Do we not remember the gods of our forefathers? Have they not led us through trials before?" The people's resolve began to tremble. Whispers of discontent rippled through the crowd as the shadows loomed larger. Gideon's heart ached as he saw the vestiges of temptation still clinging to them. "Do not be swayed by the allure of the past," he implored, "for those paths have led us to bondage and despair. It is God's righteousness that we must seek." Suddenly, the ground rumbled as the Lord spoke through thunder, a clear reminder of his majesty. "I am the God of the covenant. Have I not chosen this moment to renew my commitment to you?" In that instant of divine declaration, the warriors of Israel fell silent, grasping the profound weight of their shared history and their future entwined in the Creator's plan. They lifted their heads in awe as the clouds began to part, revealing the stars, each one a promise waiting to be fulfilled. Then the voice of the Lord rang out with unwavering authority. "For I will bring forth a new deliverance, not merely from the hands of men, but from the very depths of sin and death." Prepare your hearts, for what I am about to reveal will shake not just this land, but all the kingdoms of the earth. Deep in their hearts, they sensed that God meant to change the very fabric of their existence. The night drew on, pregnant with promise, as each man felt the stirring of faith reawakening within. What greater revelation awaited them? What does this new covenant contain, that it might transform their very souls? The winds of change blew fiercely among them as a new defiance against the old ways began to take root, a definitive moment that beckoned them to rise and respond to the calling of their God. And it came to pass that the morning light broke through the horizon, illuminating the land with the promise of a new day. As Gideon rose to greet the dawn, the echoes of the night's revelations reverberated through his spirit. He gathered the leaders of the tribes, calling them to assemble beneath the great oak at Ophrah, where long ago the angel of the Lord had met him. "Brothers," Gideon began, his voice steady and his gaze resolute, "the Lord has shown me a vision of glory, a new deliverance that will encompass all who seek him.
We stand on the precipice of a covenant that shall exceed the days of our ancestors. This is our moment to cast aside doubt and embrace the promise of God." The leaders murmured amongst themselves, and one among them, named Barak, stepped forth, emboldened yet cautious. "And what shall we do, O Gideon? The enemies of our souls still lurk in the shadows. How do we walk boldly into this new covenant when the specter of strife remains near?" The crowd gasped, for Barak's words carried the weight of the apprehensive heart. Gideon, sensing the uncertainty, raised his hands to the heavens. "Our God is with us. He has not only delivered us from the hand of Midian, but has given us victory over every foe that opposes his will. Listen, the Lord commands us to consecrate ourselves anew. We must seek him with all our hearts and turn from the idols that once ensnared us." Then, as the words left his lips, a fire ignited within the assembly. Eyes were fixed upon Gideon, and a sense of urgency rippled through their hearts. They recalled the deeds of the Lord, who had fought for them, and how his hand had brought them from the despair of slavery to the joy of liberation. "Fear not," Gideon proclaimed, stirring the souls of his brethren, "for the Lord will go before us. Did he not part the waters for our forefathers? Did he not bring forth manna from the heavens? This is but a shadow of what is to come." The murmurs of doubt began to still, and the people felt the warmth of hope rekindle in their chests. Yet, in the depths of some hearts, doubt lingered still. "Is not the path to trial and hardship a familiar one?" someone dared to ask, voice trembling with anxiety. "Indeed, trials may come," Gideon replied, his eyes ablaze with divine fervor. "But the promise of the Almighty is greater. For it is through the depths of struggle that his strength is made perfect. We shall not shy away from our fears. We shall embrace the new covenant with courage, ready to conquer the darkness." As he spoke, the clouds gathered once more, creating a tapestry of divine tension above them. Suddenly, the heavens opened, and rain poured down as if unleashed from the storehouses of God. The people stared in awe, for it was a sign, a testament that God was indeed present among them. Undeterred, Gideon called them to prayer. "Rejoice, Israel, let us seek his face together. Let us lay down our fears and take up our calling to reveal his glory." And so they prayed, voices rising like incense in the air, blending together in a holy chorus. The Lord's Spirit swept through the assembly. Even the children sang, for they felt his presence among them. Then, through the thunderous claps of the heavens, the voice of the Lord resonated. "Hearken to me, O people. I will raise up a deliverance that shall extend beyond this day. Prepare your hearts. The new wine I pour forth shall bring refreshment and transformation, not only to you, but to the very nations themselves." The hearts of the assembly soared with expectation, for something profound was about to unfold. Yet a weight of divine mystery loomed, beckoning the people to inquire further. What avenues of deliverance does the Lord intend to unveil? What glory awaits those who will trust in him? As the rain fell around them, a symphony of divine anticipation filled the air, heralding the dawn of a new era in Israel's history, the promise of unfathomable grace. And it came to pass, after the rain ceased and the air settled, that the people of Israel were stirred in their hearts. They looked upon Gideon with renewed fervor, for the words of the Lord had sunk deep into their spirits. As the light of the sun broke anew over the land, their eyes gleamed with hope. "Gather, O Israel," Gideon called, standing firm upon the great oak. "Let us prepare for the revival the Lord has promised. He bids us to trust him with all our heart, for he shall do wonders among us. Barak stepped forward, emboldened by Gideon's words. Let us cast away our doubt. What must we do, O Gideon, to prepare ourselves for this new work of God? First, we must cleanse our hearts and our homes of every idol. Bring forth the idols of Baal and Asherah that clung to our lives like shadows. For the Lord our God is a jealous God. He will not share his glory, Gideon proclaimed, each word igniting the spirit of the assembly. At once, the people began to move with purpose. They gathered the idols from their fields and homes, wooden figures, earthen vessels, casting them into the flames that licked at the sky. The smoke rose high, mingling with their prayers, as they called upon the Lord, seeking forgiveness and cleansing. Join me, cried Gideon as he joined their fervor. Let us offer our whole selves, our families, and our future to the Most High.
In this we shall see the hand of God move mightily. As the fire crackled and the idols burned, a holy fear fell upon the assembly. They recognized their sin and laid it bare before the Lord. The winds of change began to stir. They sensed a breaking in the heavens, as if God himself were attending to their earnest cries. That night, as Gideon lay upon his bed, filled with the assurance of the Almighty, he dreamed once more. In the dream, he stood in a vast valley field, and the sound of thunder rumbled in the distance. The earth trembled beneath him, and he beheld a host of angels, their wings resplendent like a mighty army. Gideon, one spoke, voice like rushing waters. The Lord has heard your prayers and has assigned you a sign. Fear not to act, for I shall go before you. In the face of the Midianite host you shall arise, unyielding and fearless. Awakening from his dream, Gideon's heart raced. He understood the task set before him. With renewed courage, he called for the leaders once again. Hear me, O mighty men and women of Israel. The Lord commands us to prepare for battle against the Midianites. He shall deliver them into our hands. The people, filled with a strength they had not known before, thundered their agreement, cries of victory resonating as one. As the members of each tribe prepared their swords and shields, an unseen presence lingered in the air, a divine tension of expectation, as if all creation held its breath. But Gideon, pressing deeper into prayer, sought even more clarity. O Lord, he pleaded, how shall we proceed? As the warriors of Israel stand ready, reveal to me your will, that I may lead them rightly. The winds howled, and darkness enveloped the night. Then a voice emerged from the depths of the silence. I shall reveal my plan in due time, Gideon. Watch and see the miracles I will perform. For I shall use the weak to confound the strong, and in your humble obedience my glory shall be made manifest. And Gideon, trembling yet steadfast, understood that the path ahead would be fraught with trials. Yet in that very journey laid the promise of deliverance. Thus, with his heart set upon the Lord, he prepared not just for battle, but for a revelation that would echo through the ages. What strategies remained hidden in God's sovereign plan? How would this humble assembly of Israel become the vessels of his miraculous deliverance? As the dawn approached, the hand of the Lord was poised to reveal a future that none could foresee, and the hearts of his people beat in unison with divine expectation. And it came to pass on the morrow that Gideon rose early, summoned by the divine urgency within. The sun had not yet cast its rays upon the land, but the hearts of the people were ignited with courage, their spirits aflame with anticipation. "Awake, Israel," Gideon proclaimed, his voice echoing across the camp. "Prepare your hearts, for the Lord our God is with us. Let no man falter, for the Almighty is here to deliver us from the hand of the Midianites. Our God shall fight for us." The assembly stirred, eyes wide with expectation, hearts thumping like war drums. As he surveyed the gathered assembly, the warriors of Ephraim, the men of Manasseh, the bold of Dan and Asher, Gideon felt the weighty presence of the Lord. "Let us divide into companies, each man standing firm in faith, for the battle is not ours, but the Lord's." Then Gideon sought the reassurance of the Lord once more, knowing that his call would echo through history. "O Lord, if you indeed go with us, grant me a sign of your promise, that I may be confident in your guidance." And the Lord answered him with gentleness. "Take this fleece, O Gideon. If the dew shall rest only upon it, and the ground be dry, then shall you know that I will deliver Israel." Gideon laid the fleece upon the ground, and soon the morning sun broke over the horizon. At dawn, Gideon rose to find the fleece soaked, a puddle of dew nestled within it, while the earth around remained parched. With awe and reverence he exclaimed, "Surely the Lord is with us." Yet still doubt nagged at his heart. And he spoke again, "Let not your anger be kindled against me, O Lord. Allow me one more test. This night let the fleece be dry, but the ground be drenched with dew." As the sun descended, Gideon retired, full of hope tinged with anxiety. In the morning light he beheld the fleece untouched by moisture, while the pasture brimmed with dew, sparkling like jewels. Gideon fell upon his face, overwhelmed by the faithfulness of God. "O Lord, I am but a man, yet you have chosen me for your purpose." With newfound determination, Gideon rallied the troops, and they gathered around him as he spoke. "The Lord has assured us of victory. But listen closely. Our strength lies not in swords, nor in our numbers, but in our obedience to His command. He has chosen the unlikely to prove His might." And the leaders of Israel, moved by Gideon's fervor and the unmistakable signs of divine favor, pledged their allegiance. "We shall follow you, Gideon. We are yours, as the Lord our God is with us." Yet the Lord had more to reveal. "You have too many for the battle," the voice echoed in Gideon's soul. "Let those who are fearful and afraid return home." Thus, one by one, the trembling hearts departed, until only 300 men remained. "Behold, our strength is diminished," Gideon thought. "How shall we prevail against such numbers?" Yet within him a spark of divine assurance ignited, for he knew that God's power is made perfect in weakness. As the moon rose high, casting shadows upon the camp, Gideon divided the men into companies of 100. In their hands they bore trumpets, empty jars, and torches, seemingly foolish instruments for warfare. "Follow my lead," he commanded. "When I sound the trumpet, shout, 'For the Lord and for Gideon,' and let the light shine." And so they stood, ready for the battle ordained by heaven. Unseen forces poised to move, and the weight of destiny hung in the air. What would unfold when the call to arms rang out? How would these humble vessels wield such fragile instruments for glorious victory? For in this moment the stage was set for a reveal, a testament to God's ultimate sovereignty over all earthly powers. As the night deepened, it was evident that the morning would usher in a transformation beyond comprehension, one that would echo in the annals of time. And as dawn broke over the horizon, casting golden rays across the valley, Gideon stood at the edge of the enemy camp, heart pounding with awe and trepidation. "This is the hour," he whispered to God.
The air was thick with anticipation, for today was not merely about a physical battle. It was a divine orchestration poised to reveal God's unfathomable love and faithfulness to his people. "Arise, men of valor," Gideon called, as the light flickered within their jars and the sound of murmurs wafted through the weary hearts of Israel. "Today we march not in our strength, but in the assurance of his promise. Our God has gone before us." With each step towards the Midianite host, the Israelites carried the weight of faith and fear. Gideon clutched his trumpet tightly, his heart a wild cacophony of doubt and devotion, yet gleaned strength from the words whispered by the Spirit. "Fear not, for the Lord is with us," he proclaimed, hoping to ignite the courage simmering in each soldier's heart. As the moment arrived, Gideon lifted his trumpet and blew a mighty blast that echoed through the air, the sound a piercing declaration of faith. "Now!" he shouted, and the men in perfect unison broke their jars, revealing the torches within, dazzling like stars breaking through the night. "Shout for the Lord and for Gideon," rang their voices, echoing off the hills, a resounding proclamation that shivered the air and struck fear into the hearts of the Midianites. Confusion set in like a thick fog. The enemy turned against one another, swords glinting with fear rather than valor, as darkness spun wildly around them. Amidst the tumult, Gideon witnessed the glory of the Lord spilling forth. The great architect of salvation was at work. It was not in the sharpness of swords, nor in the might of armies, but in obedient hearts that the true battle was fought. The sound of their voices harmonized with the sovereign orchestration of heaven, causing the Midianite camp to tremble, utterly undone at the sight of God's people illuminated by his light. As victory unfurled, Gideon chased the fleeing Midianites, emboldened and aware that this was not just a moment of triumph, but a seismic shift about to mold a nation. As the last remnants of the Midianite army fell, the sun rose higher, its beams washing over the defeated people, and shouting filled the air, a vibrant melody of freedom ringing home.
Gideon gathered his warriors, their hearts transformed from fear into fervor. They stood as witnesses to divine intervention, their past oppression eclipsed by the glory of God's deliverance. "The Lord has paved the way for us," he proclaimed, raising his hand high. "It is he who has fought for us today. Let us not forget this day. Let it be etched in our hearts." The Israelites roared with jubilation, their spirits soaring amidst the ashes of despair long forgotten. Yet, nestled within Gideon's heart remained a profound weight, a question of the days ahead. "What shall we do next?" he pondered, as echoes of celebration faded into whispers of uncertainty. And in that stillness, Gideon sought the Lord once more, laying bare his heart. "God of Abraham, hear me. We have triumphed, but what of the hearts of our people? How do we ensure they remain true to you?" The heavens hung silently, but soon the Lord's voice brimmed with grace. "Gideon, it is not just the victories that must be remembered, but the covenant renewed. Guide them to seek me daily, that their hearts may be molded as clay in my hands. Teach them, for every battle waged shall lead them back to faith, humility, and righteousness." Understanding flooded Gideon's heart, and he turned to his people, gathering them around. "Hear me, O Israel. The Lord has commanded us to return to him. Let us renew our covenant of faith. Each one must hold firm to the truths revealed, lest we lose the gifts endowed upon us." The people nodded, tears mingling with the dust of victory as they processed the weight of their journey. "Let us build an altar to our God," an elder cried, and the assembly surged with agreement. As the stone was set and the sacrifices laid, flames danced above, consuming the offerings, while their hearts swelled with an unwavering resolve.
"This altar marks our commitment," Gideon declared. "Here we pledge to serve the Lord with all our hearts, to walk in obedience and turn away from all idols." Through their gratitude and renewed commitment, the Spirit enveloped the assembly, binding them together as one people, chosen, redeemed, and called to live in covenant promise. And so, as the sun set glowing against the horizon, they gathered beneath the heavens, some with bowed heads in humbleness, others with hands raised in joyous praise, affirming God's tremendous faithfulness. They had witnessed deliverance, they had tasted victory, but above all, they held tightly to the promise of relationship with their Creator. The new era had begun, an indelible mark upon history, revealing that no matter their past failures, a future bound by faith would forever hold the promise of divine presence. For the ultimate victory, much greater than their triumph over Midian, was the pledge of hope for generations to come, an everlasting covenant unfolding through time. As the stars blinked into existence overhead, Gideon's heart swelled with joy, for he had seen the fulfillment of God's sovereign plan.
And the people of Israel, gathered as a testament to divine faithfulness, would carry forth the truth that the God who delivers remains the God who sustains. Turn now, dear friends, and reflect upon this powerful testimony of God's enduring promises. Are you ready to invite this covenant of faith into your life? Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next powerful biblical stories that unfold God's truth. Like now to help spread His word through the algorithm. Comment below with your spiritual reflections and how this miraculous deliverance has impacted your faith journey. And do not wait even one more second. Share this with at least 5 friends who need to hear this incredible testimony of God's victory. Together, let us illuminate the world with His everlasting truth.